Somehow they scored 30 points and the defense shut down the final drive of the opposing team. Two things the Bengals haven't been able to do all year. And your Cincinnati Bengals are now 3-3. I'm Joe Goodberry. This is Bengals on the Brain, and I am recording right now after the game finished. Got a little tight schedule again this week, but I wanted to lay out kind of the feelings and then try and double check it with the film this week in parts 2 and 3 of the show. The offense found a way, man. You get 2 drives again in the second half. That's it, right? Or is it 3 drives because they had the field goal? Yeah, so they got 3 drives this week in the second half. It was 3 drives technically last week too, but that's not enough. You know, it's like, man, everything is 15 plays to get there. So after the first half, you're thinking like, are they going to be able to score 30 this week and get this win? Are they going to be able to find a splash play somewhere? Is someone going to be able to do something, extra? Burrow did. Burrow created. I think he had his best game. Jamar Chase obviously had his best game, especially the one at the end. Not just the one at the end. Remember the 3rd and 6 before the field goal that ended up happening. They had 2 sacks. They kicked a field goal. This was in the fourth quarter. Out muscling that guy in the slant. Whew. I mean, that was just a precursor for what happened there on that last touchdown where he just takes that comeback route or the back shoulder. I'm not really sure what that was. It's kind of like just a feeling between him and Burrow where he's going to run his depth. But he shakes a guy, makes another guy miss, a safety miss, and goes 60 yards for the touchdown. So good for the offense. Everything was in shotgun except for the QB sneak. Again, that's something we talked about on the show. I'm saying we because I feel like you guys are all in agreement with me. If you're still watching, the ones that aren't in agreement have already checked out and they're not watching the episodes anymore. But everything in shotgun, and I think that helps them make everything look similar. A lot of RPOs, again, that's a good thing. I think that really helps Burrow make him look like the way he did and the way we expect. I thought some interesting decisions. There was one clip of Burrow wanting to go for 2 and how that would have played out. I think he's correct. It never came to fruition, and they never had to really see it. Besides going for 2 again at the end, which is also smart. That would put him up 6. It could have put him up 7 had they gone for 2 earlier. So maybe it did really. I mean, you could have been up by 7 potentially. Interesting game. Defense. They couldn't stop the run. I mean, they did when they had to, right? At the end. That is important. You got to, buckle up a little bit. Button up. Is it button up or buckle up? But you got to do it. Both of those would probably be what it takes. I'm delirious. Good game. 3-3. Bengals found a way to get back in it. Things I want to watch for, though. How much cover 2 did the Saints play? Did they play a lot of single safety? And I think that last touchdown probably was. Yeah, just off the replay. I'm thinking that had to be. We'll go back and we'll watch that one just for fun. They used the middle of the field way more, right? We were talking about how Bengals offense wasn't using the middle of the field at all. I feel like 80% of the throws fell over the middle. I can't wait to see the next gen stats on that. And I'm sure Nick, my producer, will put it in there at some point.
Here it comes! Oh, my God! Oh, my God!
Defense. They made plays when it counted. They were able to shut down that final drive. Eli Apple rebounded from a rough first half. He just needed to stay and look for the ball on that final play, and he was able to. Trey Hendrickson took over when he had to. I thought Joseph Ossai, 2 splash plays. We are definitely going to look at those ones because we could use that. And I thought Jay Tufele, maybe we can sneak in some Jay Tufele this week because I thought he flashed enough, at least on the TV copy. I want to see that again. So that's what we'll look for this week. A little bit on the offense. How much did the Saints disguise things, or did they just straight up play cover 2? Did they do what they normally do, which is a single high safety, especially without Marshawn Lattimore and other guys that are missing? Did they just do what they normally do? And then on the defensive side, I think we'll focus mostly on defense and see how the running game kept gashing them. Not to be on the negative side, but we want to see, was it they knew it was coming, right? So was it more of execution? Was it more of guys getting out of their position? Because especially versus option stuff, you need to have 11 on 11. If you double a gap because someone jumps inside, that's it. You're going to give up a big play. So those things to look at, and then we'll look at some high leverage plays. The final touchdown, maybe a couple of those sacks there where the Bengals had to settle for a field goal in the fourth quarter. What was happening down the field, because they didn't give us that replay. So let's see what was happening there. See if we can go over that. And then on defense, maybe a couple of the few high leverage throws at the end from Dalton, and see what the Bengals are doing on the back half. And I kind of have an idea, but I want to see for sure. So that's Bengals on the Brain this week. And we'll dive in right after this. So I've had a chance to watch the film, and some of the things I wanted to watch didn't end up being that interesting. And that's what happens sometimes, actually a lot of times. And then the discourse or the narrative or the questions are much different on a Monday morning, as, I think wins and losses affect it, your feeling of how the offense may be starting to come into their own. And I think in a lot of ways they are. But when I went back and watched the tape on offense real quick, because this is going to be a defensive show, guys, even though the offense won it at the end and did their thing, I just thought the defense was a little more interesting because the Saints really didn't stay in cover two. They did it a fair amount of time, but whenever they didn't, the Bengals hit big plays. And that's kind of how I expect the offense to move on from here out. I think the RPO game, the running out of shotgun, they're in shotgun every play. I was right on that. It was only 2 plays they weren't. It was a quarterback sneak and the QB kneel down at the end, of course. But all of those things are putting those safeties and linebackers in conflict, the RPOs and the shotgun runs, that, you know what, it's not worth it. You might as well bring that safety down and give yourself an extra guy in the box, or at least have one guy attack aggressively, and that just gives the Bengals what they want. They want the outsides. They want to throw outside. I saved a bunch of clips that we're not going to get to. They're going to end up being on Twitter, but a lot of the Bengals just attacking the outside once they got the looks they wanted, and RPOs too, which there's RPOs and there's packaged plays, and if they're going to keep going through this, we're going to have to define that and go and look into it. Is Joe Burrow reading defenders before the snap? Is he counting mismatch and alignment? Or is he just reading post-snap, which is an RPO? Difference between packaged plays and RPOs is reading it pre-snap, post-snap. Same thing. Same idea as you get multiple options to either run the ball or throw the ball. And the way the Saints were playing it was freezing them after a while. And it's got to be the way they can continue this offense, because it helped them attack the middle of the field, get easy slants when you see the leverage at the corners playing or the safeties are playing, and you say, okay, I've got this. Freeze the linebacker, hit a slant. It's easy money for Tyler Boyd. So I think that's the way of the offense. I think they've found their path. I think they're on the right path. It's going to be okay. So defensively now, Josh Tupo's in a walking boot, and Logan Wilson, I think Zach Taylor today said he hopes he's week to week. I don't know what that means. We don't know if that's going to be multiple weeks, months, not as bad as they initially thought. I think they still have to wait for tests and results on that, but sounds like it was the same shoulder he had surgery on, and he missed he missed 4 games total last year, but he played with a brace, and I think it affected him for a little bit. So now they got to do something different. They got gashed in the run game, and now they're playing the Falcons, who basically are going to run it. They're the run heaviest team in the league. So what do you do? Is the run game terrible now? Can you pick up the slack with those guys? Let's start with the bad, right? Why not? And then we'll wrap it up and make you feel better about it, I guess, a little bit. So let's start with the bad here. We're going to look at a few plays. Look at the big plays, because a lot of those rushing yards against the Saints came in 3 plays, 3 runs in a row. Bengals corrected it eventually, but let's look at those first. Obviously, it wasn't all bad. They got it together at the end of the game, but let's watch Josh Tufele at least to start the bad section of the plays here. That looks like DJ Reader, right? We highlighted DJ Reader a couple times doing this, shedding his guy right at the line and making a tackle. Now Tupo's in a walking boot, so that's why we're going to focus on some of the negatives. Here's Zach Carter. Bengals in their 3-4 alignment, or 5-2. You can call it whatever you want, but they've got 5 guys there that can defend the run, rush the passer, D lineman. And he's going to take on the double team, get blown off balance, washed out, and it's a solid run to early in the game. So this is really early. Tupo's still in the game here. Logan Wilson still in the game. We're going to watch 3 run plays in a row now. And this is the big one here, right? You see it's going to be man coverage, and Chidobe Awuzie and Logan Wilson kind of got to fight through each other there to play their man. Then you got a bunch of missed tackles. And we see this jet sweep motion a lot on the Bengals. They don't ever snap it when the running back's right behind the quarterback. And here's the advantage in doing that. I mean, you see Jermaine Pratt on the edge here, and he's got to defend the edge, but I think his eyes are so far in the backfield, looking at the running back, looking at the sifting tight end coming over, he never even considers the wide receiver has the ball. This is a really smooth play. I mean, they look like they practiced this 100 times with a bunch of practice squad guys, so maybe not. But we got man coverage again. So these are 3 big runs in a row. And we got man coverage again. Chidobe Awuzie, right? Watch him on the outside there. Kamara's about 4 yards gained before he even realizes it's a run play. Now, this isn't totally on him. He's Zach Taylor on the sideline there. If you can see him, you'll see him at the end of this play. He's kind of complaining about his guy being held, and you'll see that. You'll watch Jermaine Pratt on the right side here as he comes up to fill this hole here. Now everyone wants a hat on the outside as the run's going to the outside. Pratt tries to do that, and he gets held a little bit right there. And there's no one else to fill or contain the edge because Awuzie is 8 yards downfield, 10 yards even, playing man coverage, and the receiver's running him out of there. So now we got Taysom Hill in the backfield. This is wildcat running quarterback option type stuff. And again, we're attacking the outside edges again, and we're making these corners come up and tackle. And I think they're picking on Hendrickson a little bit because Hendrickson's going to run the arc, even on run plays a lot of times. And they're going to say, okay, can that defensive end or that D tackle on that side, which here it's Carter again, we're going to leave you unblocked. We're going to read you if you go inside. Then Taysom Hill's going to keep it. Jermaine Pratt has no idea who has the ball. So now Carter's got to make this play in space, and he cannot. It's just, inexperience right there for Carter. Just he's not that type of athlete. You got two guys in there. Now, here's Jay Tufele and Carter right now, and we're going to see them double team at the line of scrimmage, and Mark Ingram's going to bounce right off of them. Flip it to the end zone angle. It's getting a little tighter on these guys. Watch both Carter and Jay Tufele, who had to play now once Tupo's out of the game. They're going to get off their blocks. They're going to do what they have to do, meet, and they're going to Avengers assemble right here and just get stoned by a veteran, former Heisman-winning running back there. I mean, they kind of helped make the stop, but man, for him to get 8 more yards off it. Yeah, they give up those big plays. We're starting to get nervous. You give up, what was the score? 30-26. You give up 26 points, you're going to lose a lot of those games, especially with the way the offense has played this year, averaging less than 26 points a game. But point being here is they figured it out. Bend but don't break. I hate that term. I wonder if defenders even like that. Yeah, we're a bend but don't break defense. I know they like that they haven't given up a touchdown in the second half, but how and why? And what's the idea? They play a lot of quarters. They play a lot of two-man. They put everyone in the coverage. They expect those front guys to win, and they expect everyone to come up and make tackles, and they do. And we're going to highlight some of that next year. We want to see, what is this defense doing? Why are they so good down there holding teams to field goal rather than touchdown opportunities? I mean, we didn't even get that many throws into the end zone. What did we get last? We got that throwaway from Andy Dalton. And then there was one skinny post that maybe I think they fell at the 5-yard line. But that's it. They're not even getting opportunities to throw into the end zone. And that's key. But the run game, the run defense got a little bit better. We got to see a lot of Jay Tufele. A lot of Zach Carter. We're going to highlight both those guys. They end up having some splash plays. That's a good thing. And then BJ Hill. BJ Hill, seems like he's clutch, right? We don't talk about him much. But even in the playoffs last year, he kept making plays. Ogunjobi went down. Yeah, that was it. And then BJ Hill just kept making plays. I remember that Chiefs game, you need a play. You need another stop. Come on, can they get one more? Then he gets that interception on the screen. And then this game here, they needed a run stop, and he snipes in the backfield and gets one. Well, I'm going ahead of myself. These are the best plays of the defense from Week 6 against the Saints. The last man standing of last year's defensive tackle trio is BJ Hill, and he's a guy that you want to leave him unblocked or leave the gap between the two guys, the splits between the two, wide. He'll make that tackle in space, unlike Zach Carter we saw in the last clip. And we featured Sam Hubbard last year, one of the best run defenders in the league, and how he likes to shoot into that next gap right at the snap. There he is again, tackle for a loss. So we're just going to highlight a few plays here, a few big plays, but I do want to highlight some of the red zone because the Bengals continue to be a bend but don't break defense. And they're going to play two-man here, which is two deep safeties, man across the board, and good old Andy Dalton. What's he like to do? Check down right away because he sees it. And to be honest, it's not a bad check down. It's Alvin Kamara. Plus, you're going to get some points out of this. But the nice part of this defensive play isn't just the coverage, but when you watch Logan Wilson react and then run with Alvin Kamara. And now both of these guys got a hip. Wilson's got the inside. Jessie Bates has the outside. You can't break down and shake them. That's form tackling. That's gang tackling right there. Tackle with a buddy. Now we're back to Jay Tufele and Zach Carter on the left side. Both guys are going to long arm here and really give themselves some space. This is how you defend the run. Keep your eyes on the running back. They're going to clog the middle and both helped stop this run here. So that's a good sign that maybe things can turn around for both of those guys. We got Taysom Hill coming back into the fold here at quarterback, and it's a red zone play again. So he's got two options going deep. He's going to have an option going underneath. You got Bates and Bell on that guy. You got Eli Apple on this guy. Logan Wilson's closing ground really quickly. It's just all covered. I mean, why are they so good in the red zone and especially not giving up touchdowns? They cover really well. They communicate really well. It's like you see Bates and Bell right there stopping each other and talking to each other. You see Logan Wilson right away. Like everyone's slanting to the right. He's gone. He knows where it's going. So is Jessie Bates. Those are two guys that are moving right away. Two of the headiest guys on the defense. Makes sense. And they close that play off right away. Now back to Jay Tufele, swim move and make the tackle for a loss. All right, if he can do that, he can play in the league. So let's go back now. These are three consecutive plays now. I believe this is third down now. Bengals again going to put two deep safeties, and Dalton instantly is going to check this down, and Logan Wilson's going to come up and make the tackle very quickly. Now, if you this is a play he gets hurt, so if you don't want to see it again, you can close your eyes. It's not that it's gruesome or anything, but again, Logan Wilson is so good, so damn good. There's so many plays I could highlight of him every week where I just feel like he clicks and closes as well as any linebacker in the league. It's really impressive. We got Zach Carter on the right, Jay Tufele on the left. Both guys taking on double teams, and then they're squeeze inside and make the tackle for a loss. I love when a guy has to get down to his knees like Carter does on the right side there to hold on to the double team, not lose any ground. It's one of my favorite plays in football. And then check out Carter on the right side here. Sometimes you got to hold a little bit. You see that hand there? He's holding that guard. He's not letting him come up to get Marcus Bailey, which he's able to fill that gap and keep this to a short run. You could throw a flag. Yeah, I don't want to highlight flags here, but at the same time, watch Trey Hendrickson lose his mind on this tight end. Oof. Yeah, don't block him with a tight end. That's just not fair for anyone. And then we're going to wrap it back around with BJ Hill, the last remaining member of the defensive tackle unit, and he's going to get the sack that really closes this game. Arm over after a push-pull. Nice play. Yeah, look good. I mean, it's going to be a little bit, I think we'll see Tyler Shelvin this week at nose tackle. It was interesting to see how the Bengals did it. Like when they first lost Tupou, they were like, okay, Jay Tufele, you just play nose tackle. And I don't think he was ever considered that type of guy. He looks a little thicker than I remember coming out of USC. I don't remember him having that profile. I think they're probably just going to bring up Tyler Shelvin and have him play that spot. I wouldn't be surprised if they sign a veteran as well. See who's out there, see if anyone can play the position. They're going to have to figure out defensive tackle, especially if they want to be a 3-4 team, right? You got 3 defensive tackles out there at any time. Might not be ideal right now, but then Logan Wilson's out. So you can't go to 3 linebackers because now he's out unless you trust Marcus Bailey to be that third guy. I'd like to see it. I'd like to see more Akeem Davis-Gaither anyway. So be interesting to see how they, with a week now, 2 weeks in a row of a team's trying to run it down your throat, you might be able to answer the call for 1 week. And, then you've got Cleveland right after that, right? Oh, no. It's going to be 3 weeks in a row of dreams dying as teams try and run it down your throat. As I'm mixing words here, I'm losing it a little bit. Point being is, I got one more segment, and this is a lot of what I got on Monday. A lot of people on Twitter, like, because we're talking about Trey Hendrickson, I looked and I said, he's got 2.5 sacks. That's it. I'm still, even I say it out loud, I'm like, I can't believe he's only got 2.5 sacks. He seems like, and those were all in the Jets game, right? That doesn't seem right either. Man, he's been a terrorizer. He's been a nightmare for left tackles all year. He's having a great year. 2.5 sacks, though. So when I said this on Twitter, a lot of people said, probably leads the league in not getting holding calls, though. And I got to be honest with you. You see this with every fan base that has an elite pass rusher. They always believe their guy's being held. And he probably is getting held a lot. But what should be called and what shouldn't be called. So I wanted to lay a little bit of what the rule book says and then put some examples in there. And this is going to be the last time I talk, and then we're going to play it. So I want you to know what a rip move is if you don't know. And you can use it at any position, but it's a way to disengage from a block. So if you got a guy and you guys are engaged and you try to rip to get an arm off. So their idea is to get one arm down and then rip so he can't get back and grab you, right? If it's successful. If you can clear that arm out of there. But a lot of times if it's not, you end up with that arm across the guy's chest because you're gonna rip and try and get underneath his shoulder, and that arm's gonna end up being there because you're gonna miss a lot of times, and your arm's gonna be around his as you're a blocker, and you're gonna try and keep your legs and hips with him in stride. It's not a penalty. That's not a penalty. You are allowed to do that because you've got no other choice unless you just have to let the guy go because he used a move. That's not in the spirit of football. So it's written, and we'll go over the rule, but just so we know what we're looking at, and maybe some of them will still be called. Maybe you can still scream for holding. I like to do that too, but this is why it's not being called. And yeah, so follow us on Twitter at Joe Goodberry. Make sure you hit like and subscribe. I hate doing this part, guys. Just hit the damn button, all right? I don't need to tell us every week. I'm not going to do it every week. Enjoy your weekend. Bengals are 3-3. Let's do it. Who dey? If you think this block by Jason Peters here for the Bears, this is from last year, but against Trey Hendrickson is a hold right there with that arm across, well, you're not alone. You're like thousands of other Bengals fans, and people on Monday morning wonder why Trey Hendrickson doesn't get holding calls he deserves. Well, there's a lot of these examples, and maybe you'll get them once in a while. That's a little more nuance. You got to kind of beat the offensive tackle and really get past his hips and knees. But what does the rule book say, and why aren't these being called? Well, the rule book says when a defensive player is held by an offensive player during the following situations, offensive holding will not be called. And that's, you go down the I, it's if during a defensive charge, a defensive player uses a rip technique that puts an offensive player in position that would normally be holding. Now, what's a rip technique? This is the best play I found to give an example because he uses it all the time. So when you get by a guy, and I'll show you in a second here, but when you're trying to get by him, so you swat with your outside hand, rip with your inside hand here. So he's swatting with his right hand, ripping upwards with his left hand. The only thing that the offensive lineman can do here is end up looking like he's in a holding position, and which is why they don't call it. So this is a go-to move by Trey Hendrickson, and he's going to end up in this position. He's going to end up looking like this very often, but it's not going to be called holding. Now, what can Hendrickson do? I saw this in the game. It's funny because Joseph Ossai garners a holding call here with a rip move. See the rip move there? And then Andy Dalton takes off up the field. But if you watch, so we're going to see it again here against Andrews Pete. So he's going to go back inside. He's going to swat with the outside hand, come back in and rip with the inside hand. And he's not getting the flag yet. When does he get the flag? When he counters off of it and does a spin move and gets grabbed. Now the flag comes out. You can't see it here, but if you were watching the game, you remember. That's when it'll be called. So it won't be called on the rip.